Okay, this is going to be the second in my series about building a air cleaner for compressed air. And what I'm going to do in this video is just show you how to cut the pipes. First thing you got to do is get the length you want. Now, I've got a design laid out in my head that is going to be easier to show you in a future video, but I know that the ones I'm cutting right now need to be 48 inches long. So obviously you can use the tape measure on each one, but that's a little time consuming. So what I like to do is on this one, I measured this pipe out. See, I've cleaned the ends. We'll show you that in a second. But the point is, I've got one pipe that is my standard. And what you don't want to do is cut pipe A, use it to measure pipe B, then use pipe B to measure pipe C, and so on, because you're going to add a little bit of error every time you do that. But what you can do is you have one pipe that's your standard. You keep this one your standard all the way along, and then as you go, you grab each one that you want to cut, and use pipe A to measure the length you want to get out of your new workpiece. So we'll set the measuring pipe aside for a second. Now, the second thing you want to do is inspect the ends. Now here on the end, I don't know if you can see that, but that's cut off a little bit of an angle. I could probably make it work, but honestly it's a little too much. I would probably trim that off. But the other thing that's going on here is there's a fitting set on here, and maybe these joints are good, or maybe those joints went bad and that's why the pipe got torn out. So I'm going to cut off all the old fittings. Let's take a look down here. Now this end is it's not dead square, but it's pretty good. I'm going to call it good enough. So what I do is I put these two ends dead straight at this end so that they're even, and then I go down here, make sure they didn't slip by putting my finger down at the other end, and they did slip, so it's good that I checked. So now I want to mark this pipe where I want to cut it. And you can do all sorts of fancy stuff. I just like to take something with a sharp point, a screw on it, and give it a couple of scratches. So now carefully set my measuring pipe to the side. I've got a pipe, or I've got a scratch to measure to. So the next thing you do, doing this from a somewhat awkward angle, but we'll make it work. I've got this kind of tool. It's got a twist knob at the back. It's got this round blade, some rollers underneath there. $10. Maybe professional plumbers would tell you this isn't good enough, but it's good enough for what I'm doing. So what you want to do is you want to line up this cutting wheel as close to this as you can. You should be within a 1/16, probably a 32nd, without too much difficulty. And then you screw this knob down, you tighten it down. You got to make sure your wheel doesn't walk away from the line. And what you do is you tighten it enough. You're not necessarily going to see this, but you're going to flex the wall of the pipe in a little bit. You don't want to crank the heck out of it, just give it a good twist so there's some pressure on there. And then just rotate this sucker around the pipe. You don't have to keep cranking that knob because you put pressure on it already. So this is just, you're capitalizing on the pressure you put on it. It goes around, starts to feel kind of loose. So now you've used up all the pressure, all the benefit of the pressure you had. So give it another turn, just till it gets snug again. Then rotate it around again and again. And I don't know how visible it is in the video, but you got a little ditch growing here in the copper that's going to turn into a cut. Around and around. Sometimes I need to give it a third turn, sometimes it just falls off. Alright, so I could ream this edge out, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. What I do need to do, take some sandpaper, put it on that end, give it a good back and forth, get that oxidation off there. And that's pretty rough, which is good. That'll give the solder something to grab onto. Then I want to flip it end for end. Take the other end also. Scrape that up real good. That's nice and shiny. Alright, and then I just add it to the pile. And pretty soon I'll have all my pipes cut.